Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA 2025. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading, and joining us now is Steve Ryan, founder and CEO of Trinity Cyber. He's joined by Tom Bossert, president of Trinity. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the news desk.
Thanks for having us, Terry.
Absolutely.
Steve, kick us off with some context, if you would. Really curious about your view of the current threat landscape and the things that are brewing that keep security professionals up at night.
Yeah, I will. I can kind of break that down into three pieces. The first is, well, let me just back off a little bit. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've been a network security, now cybersecurity operator for 25 years. I can tell you that even with the advances of technology, like even today, with AI sprinkled in every sentence, the way we approach the cyber threat hasn't changed, right? So the technology has just made it, say, faster and maybe more efficient, right? But the entire ecosystem is a detect and then respond ecosystem, right? So alerts are generated based on best guesses. They feed a giant machine and a bunch of people who try and find the ones that matter. All this takes time, right? And then once an alert that does matter is found, then a response is kicked off, right? And so only when somebody's been a victim and the response is kicked off is information about that threat, simple information about that threat, shared, and then everybody blocks that simple thing, like block that site or block that IP address. So it takes somebody to be a victim, or many people to be a victim, and then we just respond. So that's one piece of it, right? The other piece is that it's just so much easier today. 25 years ago, the hackers, the people that went after us, were experts in this field, right? They really knew what they were doing. They were writing the code, they understood the vulnerabilities, they were down into the architecture. Everything's been so published now, and again with AI,
right?
It's just easy,
right,
to take this job on, right? So you've got an ecosystem that hasn't changed, a threat that is increasing, and then the other piece of this is that there aren't enough people and the distribution of technologies that can stop these guys. So yeah,
and the net result is it's failing. We spent enough time here in this field to, even at RSA, I think we probably had convened direct meetings with somewhere around 45 or 50 CISOs and CIOs for the biggest companies in the world, right? And as we talk to them, it is a uniform across the board consensus that it's failing, and that the numbers that are being reported are understatements, gross understatements of their losses, the numbers of intrusions, and their inability to keep up with the threat.
No, that piece is epidemic, of course. Sure. Tom, say more about that. I mean, there's keeping up with your patching, automating where you can, and keeping up with the user education and training, all the sort of blocking and tackling of the SOC, right? What else can security professionals do to keep networks, data, and users safe?
First part of that is that everything you described is wise, but it doesn't scale. And the second thing to say before we go into our solution is that it's not bad for people that are doing that to be doing it. We don't want to be critical of them doing their best, but it's not enough. Yeah. And so what has to happen is you need to innovate. And we've come up with something that profoundly changes the game in the network security segment. And it does so by answering the 3 points that Steve alluded to at the outset. It automates a preventive control instead of a detective control. It scales, and it's centrally managed. And so what we're doing here, and we're having a lot of traction, is we're getting people to understand that the full content inspection engine that Trinity Cyber, or platform that we offer, addresses those problems in a way that fundamentally replaces, or at least augments for the large enterprises, what they've been doing for 20 years and that they can't easily shed for various reasons. And so the outcome here for us is that we've got to change the equation, not just with rhetoric, but with actual results, so that the bad guy, so to speak, not only fails more frequently, but that they start to feel the and I don't want to talk about offensive, it's not that, but they start to feel the operational pressure of failure. They have budgets too.
Friction and disruption.
That's right.
Yeah.
So for folks who may be new to the concepts of full content inspection, break it down a little bit for us, and also describe, if you will, where it fits sort of in the equation, in the security equation more broadly.
It's the content's the key, right? So other systems will look at the data inside packets, perhaps, or the metadata around the packets, or the metadata around a session, and make best guesses. It's all they can do. It's why the false positive rates are so high, and the alerts, the alert noise is massive. What we've done is invented a way to render and examine and interrogate the full content, like all the content of every transaction.
In the full session.
Not just the headers, not just the metadata.
Exactly, the full content. So like even the objects within the content, right? The pictures and the graphs and the equations inside the OLE object, that's inside the Office document, that's inside the zip file, that's inside the web download. Like getting it to that level of fidelity. When you do that, what you can do is you can expose the attacker's methods, their techniques, their tactics, the way they code, the way they obfuscate, where they hide, how they hide, the kinds of things that make them them, and the things that don't change, right? They'll change their IOCs in a nanosecond, but they don't change how they do their thing.
So,
That's what we
sorry to
expose.
interrupt, but does this occur, say, in a like a DMZ type environment, or
This is
somewhere in the
beautiful
cloud,
thing.
or?
This is inline.
Okay,
This is inline in the internet.
okay.
Outside your enterprise, in the internet, inline. We've developed this private security plane, like its own private cloud. Traffic runs through us. This entire exposure is performed in less than a millisecond. And the best part is that as the malicious parts are exposed, this technology can edit those malicious pieces of content, either remove them or neutralize them in some manner.
So Terry, this is the best threat detection and prevention capability engine ever built on the first private commercial global security plane to ever be commercialized. So best detection prevention capability in a new model of delivery. And so when Steve says it sits in the internet and outside your enterprise, it is logically speaking outside your enterprise. And so it's not just protecting your inside enterprise, it's protecting your edge infrastructure. And if you're reading the news lately, the edge infrastructure has become the threat vector of
Sure.
APT concern. And we have absolutely perfected the ability to protect those vulnerable pieces of equipment that are not always easy or affordable to patch quickly. And so it's a form of automated patching in a sense.
I'm sure you get this question or response from prospective customers all the time, but don't they come back with, well, I've got firewalls and I've got filters and I've got extended detection and response and those sorts of things.
You know, it's funny. There's a glib answer to that. You can say, "How's that working out for you?" Well, you know,
I was just going to say
those things
that.
that I have
It
to
was
say,
on
yeah.
right on my tongue. I thought, no, I probably shouldn't.
But you know, because it's so obvious of a comeback, we don't actually find that. You know, there's not a lot of resistance to the concept that network security as we know it is not adequate to the task. And that ranges, as I said earlier, from the largest enterprises to the smallest mom and pop. And you know, so there's an appetite for something different. What I think is neat about it is not this kind of training or re-educating a market. What I think is neat about it is it's a bucking of the trend. If you look at, with all due respect to our competitors, what they're all doing is they're moving closer. They're taking the boundary closer to the end user. And they're sacrificing security in an already poor security performing environment or network segment.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to make it more available and easier to point click. But you make it easier, point click, you get a bigger market share of those you haven't quite sold to yet. That's fine, but that's not stopping the bad guy. We are pushing the boundary out. And it's the only network solution that's able to do that effectively right now. And so we're really finding ourselves standing out there.
Well, and the other part of that is part of the scale, right? So if you think about all the endpoints and all the devices, right, and all the infrastructure that you would ordinarily, when you think about cybersecurity, you think about all those things that you got to wrap your arms around. It's an impossible task, right? And so our approach is focused on the threat and the threat vector, independent of all those factors, right? And so it's a more tractable problem to solve, right? You go after that, and then again, we're not doing the simple block, but we're delivering a more enduring move, right? By removing the threat vector completely from the network traffic.
It's a more enduring move. It also is less a disruption to the business operations. And
Right.
that's, I mean, the bottom line for all of us is that we're in a cost center inside our businesses. And so we have to speak to that as well. And so
Of
what we're
course.
seeing is better results. And that's the thing that's helping us sell in a pretty fast way.
All right. What kinds of questions customers should be asking themselves if they might be on the fence around this idea around full content inspection? What do you advise there?
On the fence for using our service is an easy answer. You got to talk to us. That's all we ask. We have the ability to prove it. We have the ability to show it in an easy to comprehend live demo. And now we've got the data to demonstrate that we have scaled to a size so large that there's not an organization or a combination of organizations on the planet that wouldn't be smaller than what we're currently processing. So we have the ability to say we're no longer in startup mode. We're processing 400 GBE,
Yeah,
double that gigabits per second on
trillions of objects a day.
yeah, so massive global expansion, and we can prove it. So it's a real fun thing to have us talk to them. The real question is, depending on your size, do you use us to replace the network security solutions as you know it, or do you augment them? And then you have to talk to us about how you want to augment them so that we're a complement.
All right. Well, so appreciate you dropping by the Dark Reading News Desk. Thank you very much for doing this today.
We love the dark reading team. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. It's been great.
All right. We've been talking with Steve Ryan and Tom Bossert of Trinity Cyber. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.